Got these Silent Hill vibes going on today. Really cool. Very eerie. You know what I'm saying? Let's take another glance at that. Yeah, that tree over there. That looks spooky. What's up? Yeah, I'm late with this one. Dental appointment definitely didn't go by as I'd hoped, but got pain relievers, so I'm doing much better than I was last night and this morning. So let's get to it. Battle tactics. So yeah, for those again wanting to get into, like be in dance but want to get into like the more competitive aspect and being comfortable within that environment, this video is definitely going to be for you. All right, because although dance is a physical like art, the sport of battling, however, is going to be much more of like a mental game, right? So in preparation to the physical part of it, it's all, chess game, right? You're strategically wanting to move and or talk in ways to kind of climb higher in the ranks, sort of say, if that makes sense. Like not like in the ways of you want to become better, or like in the ranks of wanting to progress farther in a jam, right? Like in a competition, and throwing your opponent off their game by getting them flustered through your movements, or what it is you're saying towards them. And the best way in order to kind of utilize that is staying within, the dance realm, obviously, but we have like specific ways, right? We have like our own like sign language within dance. But before getting into that, some might say that like taking this route is like, oh man, those are dirty tricks, or that's low. It's not really. Okay, it's highly competitive. You see it in almost any other type of competitive sport, right? Like, it's a mental game. You try to get into your opponent's head, get under their skin, and what have you. Like, it's nothing. As long as you're keeping it respectful, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Again, like I said, friendly competition. It's good for you. It's good to help progress and help you push yourself further. And if that's not you, and you're kind of like, you're just someone that wants to jump into a battle and do it for the sake of the sport and have fun, like, more power to you, like, absolutely, as you should. Ain't nothing wrong with that. These tips are more for the ones, or for people that are wanting to really dive deep into like the battle lifestyle, that battle environment, and really just like kind of envelop themselves in that scenario. And we're going to start that off real light. So, like I was saying, we have our own like kind of form of sign language, right? So we have burns, and these are things that you would do during either your own round or your opponent's round, depending on the use of the burn that you're executing, because you don't want to use a burn that makes absolutely no sense. And I covered some of these on my Instagram. Not saying you have to go to that, but if you do, what I'm saying. But we'll go over them here. So we have biting, right? And that's typically when you're calling an opponent out for taking either your or someone else's kind of signature moves, right? Something that person is known for, you're taking it, or that you're calling out that person for taking it without giving any type of respect towards the person they took it from, like claiming it as plagiarism, right? Claiming it and utilizing it as if it's their own move, which you know it's not. So then you would use biting. You just kind of take your arms and, make a giant mouth. Moving forward, there's a bunch of whole other ones where, you kind of, for those with sensitivity issues towards, drugs, I should say. This is no partaking in anything like that, but you just take, pinch, boom, like you point, smoke, boom, throw it, right? Saying that I smoked you. This round was smoked. You're done, right? Like that's all that is. That's another one. Like you finish your round, and at the very end, boom, I smoked you. Like that's gonna drive that your opponent to be like, what? Oh hell no, again, the whole purpose of these gestures are to get under your opponent's skin, get them flustered in a sense where it's throwing them off their game and keeping you in control. Sorry about that. This heater kicks on every time I try to start one of these videos. What are you doing? Bro, what? Sorry about that. So yeah, we got biting, got smoked. Then we have a couple other ones where, you'll see, you mainly see this in like breaking battles with b-boys. Somebody will attempt to move and they had kind of fallen, or it looked sloppy and they had fallen over. You'll see their opponent smacks the ground, right? And that's saying that you crashed, right? Like you didn't execute it sloppy. It was almost cool, but not really. And then there's like you can take your hand as it's a notepad holding a pencil and then you're just writing down, right? So you're saying that pretty much everything was like their rounds were pre-planned, like they had written down what they were going to do. It's not actually freestyling. Like everything was kind of a set piece and you're, calling them out on, hey, you're not freestyling, right? And then there's the next ones where specifically in taunts, you can start throwing up a number, right? Like you're watching your opponent go, and then you've seen them do something, 2-3 times. That's when you start throwing up like 2-3, keep it going. Like, you're repeating your movements, your concepts, stuff like that. They're not keeping it original by flowing and being in a constant state of, creative flow. They're running back to default and repeating. You also have, you can like laugh and breathe heavy, like telling, like you're kind of telling them that they're getting tired and that they need to breathe. You can always throw this one up. You're a jabbermouth, you talk a lot, you talk too much. Some of some of the ones that I've seen a lot are pointing at them, their eyes, telling them to look up, engage, like look at me, because you'll see dancers and they'll not really engage with the opponent, like they're nervous, they're looking down a lot, or they're like looking around, trying to not be confrontational. And you as the opponent, you can call them out on that, like, hey man, you're dancing against me, like look at me, I'm your opponent. So all those kind of keep in mind. There's definitely a lot of them out there, and I've only kind of really scratched the surface on these. But I don't want this to be the main part of the video because, in totality, there's a lot for battle tactics that you can, utilize and put towards your arsenal. But those are more of like, again, burns, taunts, those are more of the talking talking in dancing, right? Like in any type of competitive sport, there's always a form of talking. That's just for dancers. That's how we do it. It's in these, burns and gestures and stuff like that. But to move forward into the actual, more advanced or physicality of, I don't even know if that's a word, but the more advanced, like, things to get into for your battle mentality is, for one, having impact, right? Like, meaning, are you leaving an impression on the audience or your opponent or the judges? Like, not in that specific order. Mainly the audience, the people that are watching you, because the judges, again, it can go either way, especially if you're just starting out and battling. Your main concern shouldn't be the judges, right? It should be yourself and then the audience. Because if you have impact in your rounds, even if the judges were to vote against you, like, if you left an impact on the audience and you gave them a feeling or a moment for them to remember, that will do more for you in the future of, like the event itself or future events, battles, however. It leaves people like experiencing something while watching you. That's when they connect. And that is the most important thing in dance. How many times have you been to a jam and it wasn't the finals? It was two people dancing. It wasn't the finals, and it was like a real hype moment, right? How many times have you witnessed that happen? And then, you know, congratulations to the winner of the event, but it was kind of like, all right, who won that event? Like 2 years ago? I can't remember, but that round though from that event, how many times have you experienced that? As the dancer, you want to be able to connect what it is you're portraying, what you're feeling to the audience, right? You want them to be a part of that experience, that moment. And being able to execute that helps you grow not only as an individual, but with everyone in the community. And like, they almost look forward to seeing you more and more, right? Rather than just winning a jam, you're giving them a moment, you're giving them something to connect to. It's the whole reason why people are there to watch, why people are there to engage and witness, right? And like I said, that'll do more for you in the future than actually winning the event. Because the more people you connect with and the bigger your impact is, it's also going to set you up, like I said, for future events to where like your opponents will feel the pressure, right? Like, oh my, I gotta battle this guy. Like, I know what he can do, right? Like, it's always hype when this person's battling, that pressure starts to sink in, it creeps up on them, and then that's already before the battle even starts, they're already feeling that pressure, and like that can get under their skin, that can mess with their mental. And again, now you're going and you're doing, you're living in your moment, doing it flawlessly, effortlessly, while they feel all this pressure of and it throws them off their game. So yes, having impact, very crucial, very important. I would definitely focus more on having impact than talking right? Like burns and taunts and gestures, those are one thing to utilize to have fun, to mess around, stuff like that. But it's all like more gimmick. Having impact is definitely a much more important thing. And moving forward to having impact, specifically on the audience, crowd control, right? And this one is a bit more difficult, more in a sense like of building the energy from nothing, out of nowhere, right? Like, just you're going your round and just you boom, you flip this switch within a moment of your round, and it's the energy that you have that you've put outwards towards the audience, right? To everyone in the room. And you're making a moment happen, giving them your energy, the audience your energy, to a point where they feel, like completely connected to you. Said that weird, where they feel completely connected to you, right? And when that happens, you can kind of manipulate the energy and the movement in the room, right? So you put this energy out and everybody's kind of embracing it, and now they're locked in with you. And like it can be as simple as, you just doing crowd work where you can move to the left, and now everyone in the crowd is moving with you to the left, for example, right? And you reverse that and move to the right. You've seen this in a lot of krump. You've seen this in a lot of, like b-boy things specifically, right? When they see their crewmate, or you see an opponent and they are getting ready to do their signatures, even though like you're kind of a part of, not really a part of it, but you're kind of guessing or pinpointing the move they're about to do, it still kind of almost falls into the same thing, in my opinion, because you're getting them involved with what you're doing, right? So yeah, you're completely connected with the audience, and you're manipulating the energy in the room to move with you, right? And even though that's a highlight moment, that's a really good thing to have, right? Like you've built this energy up, the crowd is really connected with you, they're feeding off you, they're moving, they're grooving with you. You've seen it in multiple battles. But the most important thing, being able, like, after being able to execute that, is being able to maintain that constant flow of like energy, right? Because just like how the connection and the energy, it all started, that moment started out of nothing in just a split second, it can also disappear just as fast. Because if at any point in time you disconnect, right, like you don't hit a beat right, or you lose them with this specific movement that just didn't connect, like it wasn't with the flow of everything, gone. It separates, the crowd kind of dies back down, and then you're kind of out here either chasing that to kind of reestablish that connection, and it's not going to work, or you die off with the crowd, and then that really hurts your round. So I'd say like having the ability to have crowd control, really focus on being able to maintain that constant flow of energy, right? You have to be able to hold that power you now have, and being able to freely work with it without having the stress and the overthinking of everything. So that's just as important. And then after that, I'd probably have to say, like, outdo your opponent. And what I mean by that is this more plays in, this one is more of like a play it by ear, right? Because there's multiple factors that can come to this. Like, how do I outperform my opponent if I have to go first? But for example, let's say your opponent goes first, right? And you have to, so you're watching your opponent go first. First things are to analyze your opponent. What are they doing? What are they trying to accomplish? And then also recognize your own strengths and weaknesses. That's a very crucial part playing this route, right? If you're trying to outdo your opponent. Because, for example, let's say you and your opponent have similar styles. For example, let's say popping, right? Me and my opponent, you and your opponent popping. Okay. How do you go about the battle? Like, how do you try to ensure or do what you can to come out on top, to be the winner of this battle? So if you're observing them go first, and really watching their round, are they playing to the crowd? Are they level changing? Are they perfectly executing, basics and foundation, the technique and the style itself? Are they playing a character? Are they doing ground moves, facial expression? The list kind of goes on and on at this point. But my point is to really watch them, analyze, and figure out what it is they're doing, and then outshine that. So, like, let's say they're trying to play the crowd and they have really good facial expressions, and they've done some level changing. Okay, you've noticed that now, but you also noticed that their technique was kind of off. Now you can, really just play with technique. Show that, hey, I do the same thing, but I do it this much better, right? Like, you were looking a little sloppy. My stuff looks clean. Okay. And then, excuse me. They did level changes, right? They went from standing to, like a crouching position, or they went into like, a W pose, but they didn't really engage with the floor. Go to ground moves, right? Like, accentuate the fact that you're more versatile. Like, you can be up here, you look clean. Now you went to the ground and I'm doing more groundwork than rather than just like kind of sitting or crouching down, right? Facial expressions, you can have those. I know I'm really difficult. Like I have a hard time with facial expressions personally. But again, that's what you're doing. You're analyzing what your opponent did and figuring out what you can do better with what they did, right? Outshine your opponent, outdo your opponent, outwork your opponent. Now, that's an example of them going first. If you, however, were to go first, my only like advice is, and it's difficult. I've been in this situation. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I just don't execute it enough to where, it just wasn't I didn't draw the luck of the draw that time. But when you go into that round and you're starting it, you can play it off, right? Like, I know that you hear all the time, judges specifically or other dancers, don't let it get to, a judge's decision on who's going to go first. Don't let them spin the bottle or spin the hat. You know, if it gets to an opportunity where both dancers are wanting to really count on going last rather than going first, show that you're hungry, show that you want to be here, that you want the battle, so go first, right? But it never, you hear people say that, and then it never goes to the person that was hungry that actually wanted to go first. So just like, I'm starting to get in the habit of like, I'm just gonna go first. You know, this whole dragging the battle out and making the energy die down before the battle even starts, it really just, it really does just suck. But that is my advice, is if you are to go first, you have no choice but to raise that bar as high as you possibly can every single time, right? Battle after battle, you have to raise that bar for yourself because you're setting the standard, right? You go first, set the bar as high as you possibly can, but make it look like it was effortless, like you were having fun doing so, right? Because in doing that, your opponent now has to match that same energy or exceed it and make it look just as easy, because if they don't make it look as effortless, they were too focused in, and then they kind of, don't really work up to doing so, because they were so focused in on getting mission complete that I forgot to have fun, right? So raise that bar as high as possible and make it look like you're having fun doing so, like it was just nothing to you. Okay, because it's hard for more people. It's hard. I feel like it's hard for most people to match energy if it comes straight out the gate like that, rather than building up, especially for the second round. You always get the luck of the second round response, to where you are able to analyze your opponent and respond in kind. But if you come out swinging from the very get go, you know, it makes their job harder, right? So, yeah, take that one with a little grain of salt. But I know from personal experience that that's definitely the route to take if you're, again, the one that has to go first. But lastly, play to your strengths, right? Not as in like style wise. Yes, style wise, but more in depth than that, right? Like, what is your personality on the dance floor, for example? Like, do you utilize the space? Are you a space user? Do you, you know, move around, travel, and utilize every inch of the floor that you have? Do you focus more on like crowd appeal? So are you really are you wanting to engage the crowd with the wow moments, right? Again, nothing's wrong with anything of these, or any one of these. It's more of, you know, me asking in a sense of what is your strengths, acknowledge and figure out what your strengths are. Like another one, are you in your opponent's face a lot? Like you're, hey, what's up, son? Are you a storyteller or a beat killer? Right? Really figure out what it is that you do naturally, right? When it comes to dancing. Okay? Play to those strengths. Use those as to build your character, to build your concepts, the moment that you have in that round, use your strengths to utilize everything you can to accomplish what you need to do, right? So, yeah, battle tactics, mental game, burns, gestures, taunts. That's the whole talking to your opponent. That's the mental game to get under their skin. Having impact, right? You want to be able to impact the audience, your opponent, the judges. Again, more for yourself, but you want to impact the audience. Then crowd control, being able to harness and create, or being able to create a moment and connect your energy with the audience and harness it through your flow, and not lose it, right? Crowd control. Outdo your opponent, figure out what it is they were doing, capitalize on it, execute, make it look effortless. And again, the last one being play to your strengths. Figure out what your strengths are, play to them. Also, yes, work on your weaknesses, but whatever it is you naturally have a strength in, whatever it is that you gravitate towards within your dance, play to those, utilize those. Okay? Don't be afraid to, use what you got. All right? So that's my take on battle tactics for today. I hope that this helped. If you want a little bit more of a deep dive or explanation onto other certain things, questions on, anything else that you have concerns with going into battles, please let me know. Just holla at me. Let me know in the comments. Shoot me a message. I'll happily respond. But yeah, I'm going to go make sure I'm going to take care of this tooth. And I hope y'all have yourselves a great night. I will catch you again tomorrow. All right? Peace.